Welcome, everybody, to the fifth annual Peralta Online Equity Conference. We're so pleased that you're joining us here for what looks to be a wonderful program. And we're so grateful to Gina, Imani, and Elizabeth for helping us get started. Um, it looks like Rebecca is sharing her screen, but I don't think she is one of the folks who is presenting. So Rebecca, if you could stop sharing your screen so that Gina, Imani, and Elizabeth can do that, that would be great. All right, so just a few logistics. The session is being recorded. If you do not want to have your image or your likeness or your voice recorded at any time, you can use the chat. You can turn your camera off. We are all aware of the different conditions we're in. The Zoom captions have been turned on. You just go to the bottom of the Zoom window. You'll see a closed caption button, and then you just choose show captions. And if you don't see a closed caption button, you might have resized your window and it's under the more button, the three dots where you have more menu items. We encourage questions in the chat throughout, and with three speakers and myself, we'll be sure to keep an eagle eye out for any questions that you might have. But right now, I would love to introduce to you Gina Riley, Imani Perez, and Elizabeth Klein from Hunter College in New York. They're going to be telling us how to create a decision-making curriculum for students with and without disabilities in grades K through 12. So without further ado, please take it away.
Good morning. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Kevin and everyone at Peralta. We're so happy to be here. So we're going to introduce our decision-making curriculum, but first I want to introduce my amazing colleagues. So we are at the Hunter School of Education in New York City. We received a grant from the New York State Developmental Disabilities Planning Council. All of us have worked so hard in creating a curriculum for students with developmental and intellectual disabilities and everyone to create and make decisions on their own. So, Amani, if you want to introduce yourself, and then Liz.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Gina, for such a great introduction. Happy Monday, everyone. Thank you all for being here again. I am Imani Irving-Perez. I'm a doctoral lecturer in the Early Childhood Development and Learning program at Hunter College in the Department of Special Education. And I'm going to pass it to my lovely colleague, Dr. Klein.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. And thank you for waking up so early to be with us. Thank you, Gina, Kevin, Imani. And I am a clinical professor on childhood special ed, P through 12, science of reading, and happy to be on this grant. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're so excited. And again, just like Kevin says, we want you to participate. We want you to enjoy. We want you to like your questions, everything in the chat. We will answer everything. So again, we have a wonderful team who created a decision-making curriculum for students with disabilities and all because we really wanted to highlight decision making. You know, one of the most important purposes of school is to give kids the skills to be able to become adults that make informed decisions. But sometimes, and really often, schools don't provide that decision-making instruction to individuals, creating sort of a lack of preparation for living and the idea of making autonomous decisions. So our aim is always to make decision making accessible to all, especially kids and college students with and without disabilities. And we just want to highlight that this curriculum is a model of an equitable, inclusive curriculum for all students. So Amani, if you want to talk about the different types of curriculum we have.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we've prepared this curriculum for each grade band and for bilingual students. So we have a wonderful colleague. He's the fourth colleague from our team, Dr. Alfonso Perez, and he worked on the bilingual curriculum. I worked on the childhood curriculum. Professor Klein worked on I worked on the early childhood curriculum. Professor Klein worked on the childhood curriculum, and Dr. Riley worked on the adolescent curriculum. And we're working on the transition community college curriculum that should be ready sometime this year. So it's 10 lessons, 40 to 45 minutes each, and it's supposed to be used equitably, meaning at any time within the schedule. So it could be advisory periods. And the other piece of why it's equitable is because it could be used anywhere truly. So it could be before or after school programs in schools. It could be used in social emotional curriculums or content-based curriculums. And the best piece of it, which really emphasizes the equitableness of it all, is that it's free for use for all in New York City, New York State schools, in California, all over the United States, and internationally. Liz, you can take it away.
Yeah, how does this look in schools? So Imani started giving a good overview of where you can use this in your school, how you can integrate it in the school. Although there are 10 lessons, we have a flexible approach and we've integrated interdisciplinary in English ELA, classic ELA classrooms. In one of our adjunct professors is using it in an economics program. It can be used in counseling groups and in TESOL classrooms and within early childhood. Now, I also love the idea of the social emotional learning class, and a lot of schools now have this kind of class where the students focus on, the skills that we really need aside from the academics. So as we said, the 10 lessons can be used flexibly. We have like one school that went through them and then went through them again. So that's up to the school and their needs. If a lesson doesn't fit, the teacher can or counselor can skip a lesson. And if you use the curriculum, we only ask that you provide us the feedback because that's how we are able to readjust the program and how we collect data and keep the grant going.
You all have access to this curriculum, and we will put a QR code up in a second showing you. We want you to download it. We want you to use it in any way that works well for you. Thus far, March of 2025, we've had over 210 unique downloads. It's utilized in 100 districts and schools in New York State, the United States, and internationally with over 4,000 students thus far. So we are super, super proud of it, and we hope it's helpful for you. We will also share these slides, but if you want to upload the curriculum, you can feel free to use the QR code. And again, this is free for use. There is nothing that you need to do. You just have access to a Google folder of the early childhood, adolescent, and bilingual curriculum. For those of you who are working in community colleges or colleges, there is also a transition curriculum coming in July of 2025 that we're super excited about. So what we wanted to do today is we really wanted to talk about curriculum design integration, as well as give you a peek at what certain parts of the curriculum look like. So Liz, I don't know if you want to take this part of the
Yeah.
curriculum design integration. Thank you.
Sure, sure. So what we thought about is the universal design so that we integrate all multisensory experiences so that all learners can have access to this. Is everywhere from students with multiple disabilities to students who are gifted and everywhere in between. We made the curriculum hands-on and experiential because this is another push in our Hunter College, and we really want learners to enjoy this process. Imani did a lot of research on play-based learning, and we all kind of like jumped on her idea because play-based learning really makes the day go faster. The kids love it. They're wired for it. We have a lot of icebreakers, games, we have role playing, many handouts and things for parents to use later on if the teacher wants to share with parents. We have social emotional learning standards in our state, and I'm sure your state must have it too because this has become a big push. And there's the CASEL learning standards, and we use which are pretty much national. We use those too. We definitely support biliteracy in our biliteracy curriculum, and we use a lot of cultural assets such as fables and use of Spanish, language development. We use a lot of ideas from cross-curricular multisensory, so using self-expression. We definitely focus a lot on relationship building, no person is an island kind of thing. And we definitely have room for direct instruction, gradual release of responsibility, and for discussion prompts. Because we built this program based on originally supported decision model. We have students with severe and multiple disabilities who do need that direct instruction. So it's we build that in. We have a wonderful guide for parents and caregivers for each level of curriculum so that the teachers can really encourage that seamless transition from home to school learning. And we have some real research going on behind this curriculum. Dr. Riley has been working with DC and Ryan for years and years, and Peter Gray and other great researchers on self-determination theory, play theory, decision-making theory, and we all dived in to help her out with some research. And we are continuously taking feedback to revise this curriculum, to update it, to integrate the newest standards, and to consider interdisciplinary models. We have an advisory board as well.
Thank you, Liz. So we wanted you to see this in practice again, so you can modify it for your own schools and environments. We use translinguating pedagogy throughout the entire curriculum, but especially within the bilingual curriculum. And the bilingual curriculum is so strong in really combining English and Spanish, and as well as kinesthetic learning. So I love that throughout this curriculum, students are developing metalinguistic awareness. They are identifying cognates and connections between English and Spanish, as well as all different languages. So we have translations coming in Russian, Chinese, Bengali, and Yiddish as well. You'll see a lot of color coding. You'll see a lot of self-assessment. You'll see a lot of focus on individuals' thoughts and feelings as they are making decisions. As Liz stated, we're using universal design as a basis for our curriculum. We are constantly talking to students about the difference between a quick choice and a more thoughtful decision. And there is a difference, right? We talk a lot about choices, which are more quick, more immediate, and more thoughtful decisions. So here you can see the quick choice, thoughtful decision framework, as well as how our curriculum maps to universal design for learning standards of engagement, representation, and action and expression. The meat of this and the best part of this is our guts, pause, and go model. And we all worked super hard to think about this. There is lots of decision-making frameworks in the literature. Imani, Liz, our colleague Alfonso, and I were trying to think of a really simple, great acronym for the decision-making process. And so after much conversation, I think it took us a whole summer, right? Like of thinking about decision-making frameworks, we created a guts, pause, and go model that's now used in districts across the country. So when you think of decision making, right, your first step is to always gather information. And so throughout the curriculums, we are showing students different ways that they gather and exploring the ways that individuals gather information. And that's always something fun that our students do together. We then want students to understand that information, right? It's one thing to have a collection of tabs on your computer or a collection of books about things or a collection of images, but you also have to make sure to have students understand that information. We are information overload right now in our society, and so it's really important for students to be able to take that information and make it into something that's meaningful to them. We spend a lot of time in the curriculum talking about thinking about consequences, specifically creating pro and con lists, and also specifically thinking about how consequences are not always bad things. A lot of students will say, oh, consequences are bad, but no, consequences can be both good and bad and neutral and all of it. So we have students sort of think about consequence as the word, but also thinking about pro and con lists and weighing things and weighing out options. Really, really integral to our curriculum is this process of seeking out support. We know from research and from our own decisions that no one makes decisions alone. And so support in decision making is really important. So throughout the curriculum, we have students identify the types of support they might need in making decisions, as well as the individuals in their lives that might assist them in support. I wanted to go right to the go, right? You go through the guts and then you go to the go make your decision. And my colleagues were like, hey, wait, Gina, there is another step, right? And that is the really important step of pausing and reflecting before you make a decision. And so we show different ways that students can pause and reflect. And then, of course, they can go and make the decision. So we really want you to see the curriculum so that you can utilize it in your own work. So we'll do an activity from each of the curriculums. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, let us know. So Liz, if you want to take gather information.
Sure. So we have to, when teachers take this curriculum on, they really teach students that information can come from not just your friends or your peers, it can come from a variety of sources. So we teach students, to first look to their, immediate support groups such as, family and teachers and mentors and counselors, but then they can learn to evaluate critical sources. And critical sources could be anything from informational text to understanding how to evaluate something in print or digital literacy. And this opens up a world, where now teachers are thinking about greater accessibility. So maybe they're going to use more visuals for the learners who need that, or maybe they're going to use, stop and slow down and annotate the text, or put the text on a different kind of format, just so that the students are able to understand that decisions take a little bit of research. So that's step one.
And Liz, you're doing such a great job. Go on to understand information.
Sure. So students can be great at gathering information, but their teacher has to teach them how to integrate the information and understand the information. First, to understand the information, kids will have many choices and teachers can help them with either talking it out or reading, going over it with them, making it a turn and talk or something like that. And then we have integrated some tools that are really good for use, such as, the good old pie chart. I'm sorry, pro-con chart. And that way the students can see it in front of them and they can sort of understand it. That's not the only way to understand information, but these are some of the tools that we integrated into the toolkit, which is numerous for each curriculum.
Thank you. We play a lot of would you rather, right? In terms of thinking about consequences. So, would you rather take care of kids or animals? Would you rather play or work outdoors or inside? Would you rather live alone or with roommates? Would you rather spend your birthday money on an item or on an activity? So, depending on the age, right? I think in the adolescent curriculum, we get deep into would you rather. Would you rather go to college far away or would you rather stay nearby? Would you rather, how are the ways you want to make money? Would you rather go to work right after high school or would you rather go to college for a while? So, just thinking about consequences, utilizing the would you rather game, and we play this in many different ways within the curriculum. Imani, if you want to talk about seeking out support.
Absolutely. So, what's really amazing about the curriculum is that we backward design in many ways using our framework and also thinking about it developmentally. And so, we kind of had the building blocks that we needed with our framework, but we were able to think about what was happening already with high school and then kind of get that down to childhood and what was happening with childhood and get that down and pare it down for early childhood. And then, of course, bilingual goes throughout. So, when we're thinking about and hearing about these different types of curriculums, we know that perhaps a would you rather game on a large scale of like, would you rather go to college here or there wouldn't work for the babies, but we have an adapted version for our younger children. So that's really important to remember as we're thinking about the or imagining the different types of ways that this can be used throughout P through 12. Our next curriculum or step in the curriculum or the framework is seeking out support. And what this might look like is asking students different types of scenarios and asking them who might be their supporters. And again, one of the things that was mentioned earlier is the importance in the decision-making process to highlight the people who are part of our decision-making process and how they support us in this process. And so this pod mapping is just one of the many examples across the different curriculums of how we get children to outline and discuss and talk about and really honor the fact that they are able and expected to talk to and check in with people who are really big parts of their decision-making process. So we really want to highlight that. And then we have our pause and reflect. So much like Dr. Riley shared earlier, we wanted to just go, or in Spanish, dale, let's get to it, right? But we couldn't because we had to also honor the fact that after we've gone through these processes, it is important to take a moment and be mindful. And so that mindfulness might look like consulting with a higher power or an inner power, which is just as important. Maybe perhaps doing a self-assessment. We talk about that a lot. How do we know that we've gone through all the steps if we just dale or if we just go? And so we get the children to embody what it looks like to pause, right? It's not just stopping and then going, but perhaps it might be breathing. This is just an example for lesson 8 of what that might look like. And we really want to emphasize these ideas of self-compassion before making the decision or before dale, right? So we want children to be mindful through mindfulness exercises, ask students to breathe. In early childhood, we cut the star out for them, or they might cut the star out for themselves, depending on their fine motor abilities, and hold on to the star, right? And we kind of use this metaphor that we're all pretty much familiar with to some degree of wishing on a star or holding on to the star to make that moment, to take that moment to pause. And then through these activities, we're helping students develop this mindfulness, these self-reflection skills, these self-assessment skills, and we enable them to make more thoughtful decisions before the dale or the go.
And then they go, right? And then they make their decision, and hopefully they share that with others. And it's a big part of it, right? We want students to be able to make autonomous decisions with support. So, Liz, if you want to talk about parent and caregiver guides.
Sure. So each curriculum, as I said before, comes with a guide, and the guide has a ton of things, not just how to use the curriculum, but how to try it at home. And it really is meant to develop this relationship because it's not just about decision making at school, it's about trying it at home and really feeling confident as a parent that, you have some of the steps, what's going on in school. And we really responded actually to our advisory board and our parents who wanted this. So, you will find those guides really helpful, well laid out, and it really supports the curriculum because we do believe in those partnerships.
Yeah, so along with our curriculum, we are always offering free professional developments to teachers and paraprofessionals and school staff about the curriculum itself, but also on facilitating intrinsic motivation and self-determination. We give parent PDs on how to enhance decision-making skills in their children. And we also do a lot of conferences focused on decision-making for students with and without disabilities. So we always like to share our next steps. So if you are all thinking about it in your districts, that you get ideas from this. So we are always outreaching to more schools and districts, and we're always using feedback and evaluations to improve the curriculum. We are going to create videos this summer with an inclusive theater group that focus on decision making to add to our curriculum. So that is always so exciting. We are always open. We love our advisory council so much. They've given us so much fantastic feedback. And so if you ever want to be part of our advisory council, we would love for you to be. We are translating our curriculum into Chinese, Russian, Arabic, Yiddish, and Bengali. And we are publishing articles and policy briefs on decision making for students with disabilities. So we're going to stop. We're going to do some Q&A. I hope there's some questions in the chat too. And we also ask if you have feedback to always just, again, here's another QR code for a feedback form. We'll put the decision-making curriculum in the chat again as well. But now we are going to open this up for questions. So I am going to stop the share. And if anyone has questions, please feel free. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
You bet. So I think I'll get us started while the others formulate their questions. So for people who might want to share this, they may not be educators in the P-12 space themselves, but they might be maybe instructors at a college of education like yourselves, or just have colleagues and friends in that space. Is there a brief write-up or, so that kind of the guts pause and go, right? It's like, how do we allow people to get on board quickly and adopt these materials in a way that where obviously there'll be this recording, but you may have already thought, hey, we want to make this easy for people. So I want to give you a chance to share with everyone how that might take place.
Yeah, so please feel free to share this website, feel free to share the download. And again, our downloads, of course, are focused on schools, but also we want everyone to have access to this curriculum. Within the download is just a Guts and Go poster, right? So you can download that, you can print it out. If you would like a printed copy, feel free to email me and I'll get you one. But it's a nice poster to have everywhere. I know I'm using the steps just as an individual in my head when I have to make a decision. And for those who are working at colleges or community colleges, again, feel free to use any and all materials in any way you see fit. We also have a one-pager that I can send you, Kevin.
The website itself also has a lot of descriptions, and the website was created in collaboration with persons with disabilities. So if you go to the website and you peruse it, it should have a lot of the overviews.
Wonderful.
And for those of you, I don't know if anyone's really interested in decision-making research, but for those of you who are super interested in decision-making research, those parent guides really outline the decision-making research that went into our curriculum. So for those of you interested in research themselves, that's where you would find that.
And we also had Dr. Riley working in Europe with some business people who were interested in this curriculum, believe it or not. So you want to share that.
Sure. So last year, we had a lot of individuals in Eastern Europe that were interested in working with our curriculum. And so I went to Prague, shared this curriculum with a bunch of economics faculty. And like, it wasn't until I am not an economics person, and it wasn't until I went to Prague and really talked to students and faculty about the decision-making curriculum that I realized, like, oh, okay, economics is the science of decision making. And sometimes it's nice to have a framework to follow when you are decision making. So yeah, this has been really popular with economics teachers both here in Europe, internationally, which is a big surprise. Every time someone uses it for a different purpose, I'm always surprised, right? Like people are using it in counseling and advisory, but people are also using it in their economics classrooms, in their history classrooms. We just got a email from a group in New York that's interested in using it as a framework for people making voting decisions. So just thinking about that. Any other questions?
It's an interesting concept. And again, because this is a global conference with participants from around 12 to 15 different countries, I'm wondering, you have the DALE, the Spanish version, but you mentioned that you're working with a number of communities that speak languages other than English. Is this something that you think people from ESOL programs or others might want to consider as, and not only for use in their own classes, but for sharing with the communities that they serve?
100%. So we hope that by the end of this year, we'll have all of our translated curriculums ready for use in all of the communities, right? So again, we want to make this as accessible as possible. We want to make this as known as possible. And, if you're working at community centers or if you're working with your community, we just had a great professional development that was done in one of our local teaching hospitals to doctors and physicians and parents. And so when working with anyone within the community, these curriculum it's really super helpful. It's also super helpful within the realm of if anyone is working within the realm of working with teens in guardianship or supported decision making scenarios. It's also extremely helpful.
I think that the other thing we probably want to highlight is that, in this like age of automation and artificial intelligence, we have reps, pausa, and dale, but we're making sure that the translation is not something that's automatized, right? That we are really trying to make it true to the acronym we created so that it's something that's meaningful in every single language and that it can really be remembered and retained across languages. And so there's ways we can do this really quickly, but I know that we are really dedicated to making sure that the meaning is retained. And through that, we're working with the many different and the many different populations who speak these languages to make it as inclusive and equitable and meaningful as possible.
It's been a real lesson in inclusion, right? Because everybody who works on the team, whether on the website, right, whether anyone who's doing translations are all individuals, not only from diverse groups, but also individuals with intellectual, developmental disabilities, individuals who are neurodiverse. And we're really, really proud of that. We're really practicing what we preach in that area.
So while we take all these ideas in, I'll encourage every one of the participants to share any questions or comments you have about similar programs you've seen at your institution, or maybe ideas that you have for our intrepid trio who got us started today. If there anything from the crowd, please share them either in the chat or feel free to raise your hand and ask using your microphone. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep asking questions.
What's really Today is the learn day of the Peralta conference. And so as much as we're here to share, we're definitely here to learn from you. And so anything you put in the chat that's feedback related or, that shares like an idea of how this might have sparked some thought for you could be super helpful for us to learn as part of the first day of the conference.
Well, one idea I had while you were talking is right now we're, at least in California, seeing a growth in programs for community colleges and universities to have students incarcerated. So how do we support those populations with this decision-making curriculum because we want to prepare them for re-entry into the world? And so I don't know if that's something you've considered or are already working on, but if you want to speak to it, that's
Uh, it's so interesting, Kevin. So I formerly worked with individuals who were incarcerated early in my career. And when we have another colleague from Supported Decision Making New York who's working with us on the transition curriculum. And so the transition curriculum is truly a transition curriculum, right? It's for community colleges, it's for people entering the world, the workforce in a new way. And I think you'll find it really, really fitting. It's also really, again, it's really, really important for people to come out of this curriculum really knowing how to make decisions and really knowing how to make positive decisions with support. I think one of the most important parts of this decision-making curriculum is like, yes, we want people to make autonomous decisions, but we also want people to know who their supporters are, right? Who are the people within their world? And sometimes it's family, it doesn't always have to be family, right? But who are the people in their world that can help with particular things? I was having a conversation with a teen who uses our program, and they were talking about how when they first thought about like financial decisions, they're like, yeah, I'm going to lean on my mom, right? Like she knows everything. Like that's who I'm going to lean on. And then they were thinking about this 6 months after, and they were like, wait, like there are different people within this world who have much more financial expertise than even my mom, right? So like he had made friends with his local banker, and he was like, yeah, I can use them. And his aunt was like a financial manager, and she's like, oh, I can use her too, right? And so thinking about the people that support you in different decisions is really important. I think that's a really, really great way to step into this, like making decisions with support, whether you are a person entering this world after being incarcerated for a period of time or entering this world after being in school and maybe a little bit sheltered for a period of time.
I think the reflective piece that Imani was talking about is for early childhood, but I could see for everybody, right? I could see it. Yeah, it may not look like a star, a physical star. It may look like a bubble, like a graphic organizer. But I could really see that piece for folks who are adults facing challenges.
so I
And
also can imagine. Oh, please go ahead.
I was just going to say some of us use it, we use it ourselves, and that's the interesting part. We find ourselves using it, our own decision making, our graphic organizers, our guts and go. So it can be used across the board. Go ahead.
No, I'm looking forward to investigating it further because decision making is something we do every day, right? But for those of us who are adults and are okay sharing our public selves on the web, maybe we're not in a space where it's not advisable for preteens, etc. Um, I can imagine there being an e-portfolio component of this where you're showing evidence of the progress in your decision making, and maybe as you're thinking about future careers and ideating about how you want to pursue specific academic and workforce programs, um, and just that whole aspect of decision making as you get ready to make big life decisions and as you achieve them. There's, I think, something to be said for modeling and sharing with others. Hey, this wasn't something that happened by accident. I planned it. I did a lot of decision making at the beginning, and I had to do a lot of decision making loops as I went through the process. Hey, this semester it was tough financially, so I had to cut back on the number of classes, and this is what I had to do instead. But I'm still moving toward my specific goal, and so it just occurs to me that I think there could be an element of using electronic portfolios or some other visual representation of kind of, hey, I'm proud of these decisions I've made, and I've made them come to light, made them happen.
I love that idea, Kevin. One of the exercises that we've done and anyone can take, right, is we've used this guts, pause, and go framework. We've had students map out decisions. And this is reminding me, Kevin, of your portfolio idea, right? Using the framework. And these become big, right? These become, let me map out, you know, should I buy a used car? Should I buy a new car? Should I, get my car fixed or buy a used car? Should I go to college after high school or should I wait, right? Should I work a little while? So we're seeing adolescents and adults really thinking about these decisions that they make using this guts and go framework. And I know we all have utilized it ourselves. I'm going to put the framework within the chat. I'm also going to dig out a Padlet that we've done with students about their decisions.
One of the other things that I know we're so proud of in terms of the research, besides the science of decision-making research and of course self-determination theory, is just thinking about, which is part of the science of decision-making, our acronym, the GUTS acronym, the GUTS pause and go acronym, and like, why guts? Like, what does that even mean? And thinking about how our work really aligns with a lot of the research that's coming out around how we make decisions, the brain and the gut connection, and what happens when we are making perhaps an impulsive decision versus a more informed decision, some of the things that are happening internally, right? And so we don't get to go deep into that in our curriculum because that's not really what it's about, but it's rooted very deeply in that research of how does the gut or how does the brain, right, of the gut inform the brain of the head, right? And what are the connections there? So there's so much research around that, and we're so proud of that acronym. It's not something that's just really arbitrary. It's deeply rooted to science. The other piece that I wanted to add, and I didn't want to forget it, ah, is the importance. I see one of, I don't have the name in front of me right now, but this piece about metacognition and making sure that sure there are impulsive decisions that we make or instinctual decisions that we make, and we're comfortable with those quick choices, and that is in our curriculum. But then of course there are decisions that may feel like it could be a quick choice, but it would probably be more important if we go through this operational or this foundational process or framework to make it not an impulsive decision. And so, Kevin, when you were talking about this emergence of curricula or work that's being done with incarcerated populations or transitioning populations from incarceration, perhaps just having these moments, I can really see how this work can be done there, because perhaps having these conversations around what is, what was an impulsive decision and what would have happened, or what could there have been to gain if this framework would have been followed, right? And then finally, this piece about you know, being proud and seeking out your supporters, but also how you're gathering information and what constitutes as, misinformation, what's not information. And that's really big in digital literacy curriculums these days, as students are learning how to use the internet and peruse the internet, since that's such a big piece of how research is being done. And so, of course, I just wanted to really hit home these thought processes that we went through when we were thinking about how can this curriculum be integrated throughout um, all facets of content.
Fantastic. And um, that idea about metacognition came from Raquel Adams. Just want to give credit where credit's due. And the statement was, we are working on metacognition, self-directed and action-based learning as part of our QEP. So this provides some practical approaches for faculty. I'm looking forward to sharing the website and research with my institution. Big thank you. So just want to make sure we capture that for those watching the recording. Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Seems like we have time for maybe one more thought or a quick key points from the speakers or a quick question from the group before we get ready for our next session.
I think we just want to thank you. Thank you all for coming so early in the morning. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Kevin and Didem and everyone involved in this conference. It's an incredible conference. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Feel free to share the website widely. Again, it can be used in so many different ways. I put a PDF of Guts and Go in the chat that can be printed. Anything that you all need, please reach out and let us know. And thank you again so much. So much gratitude to you all.
Thank all three of you as well. And we will be happy to post underneath the recording for the video any of the resources you like so that when people come to our website, they can jump straight to the curriculum or after they watch the recording or both. So we'll work with you on that. But everyone stay tuned. In about 15 minutes, we're going to kick off the session with our opening remarks from the Peralta Community College District Chancellor, Tamil Gilkerson. And then Didem also has a video. Since this is our 5th year, she put together a montage of different pieces from all 4 years leading up till now. And then some guy named Kevin Kelly's gonna share some ideas as well. So stay tuned and we'll see you all in 15 minutes. I'm gonna stop the recording now.
Thank you all. Have a great, great day.
Take care.